Here it is, how to motivate workers in tough times, 2 of 2. People have done a lot of research on motivation, and in particular, over the past couple of years, you've probably seen as a leader doing your homework that there have been a lot of people, very smart people, addressing the issue of motivating workers in tough times. So I want to tip my hat to Ann Bradford, Richard M. Ryan, who wrote for Harvard Business Review, and Bob Clark, who wrote for Forbes. You see, what I most liked about them is they understood the value of the kind of approach that we use. Practical, actionable, and a brief explanation of why it's so important. By the way, if you enjoy our approach, please like or subscribe. And if there's a topic that you think should be covered sooner rather than later, please contact me. My contact information is always at the end of the video. And while it may already be on our list, it may be a little further down than you want it to be. If you tell us you want it sooner, we'll move it up. Back to the topic at hand. Motivating workers in tough times does not always mean a global pandemic. Sometimes it could mean very industry-specific tough times. Okay. So I want you to think of the context of the tough times and how that specific context actually affects the people on your project team and obviously on you. At one point, I'd forgotten about me. And I was lucky enough to have a team full of wonderful professionals that we built such solid relationships between us that one day, a couple of them, there's no polite way of saying it, ambushed me in the company cafeteria. Gently led me over to one of the tables and then proceeded to ask me a few very pointed questions. I'd been running around trying to focus on how they were feeling as we were going through the breakup of one of the largest companies in the world. But I hadn't really given some thought to me. You know, that weird attitude that comes along that says, I'm fine. I got to make sure my team members are fine. That's the most important thing. And by golly, I was doing it. That was my top priority. And in the meantime, I was losing sleep, losing my appetite, losing my sense of humor. That doesn't even sound like me. I mean, I'm the kind of person who has never been able to understand people when they say, yeah, sometimes I forget to eat lunch. Seriously? And I was the kind of person who tended to sleep between 8 and 10 hours. 9 was my sweet spot. They sat me down and they demonstrated the kind of leadership that was very gratifying to think about once I got over being, chewed out. But you see, part of what makes that so important is one of the hints that I got from reading these articles and having them really solidify a thought process for me. Make sure that there is an interdependent sense of relatability. Make sure that everyone on your team has already developed the habit of making time to listen and demonstrating to the person they're listening to that they've been heard. This isn't something that should be brand new as a practice to you. It's something that you should be doing already. But you might need to amp up the incidence, the volume of the care, just a little bit when we're going through tough times together. Remember, all too often people don't feel that their value, their contribution is recognized, never mind appreciated. But what better signal can you give them than to make sure that you express appreciation for what they have said, demonstrating that you have taken the time, that it's important to you that they know that they were heard. Okay. Step 2, communicate with transparency. Now, we're all about communication, context, clear definition that is specific to the context and the team environment that you're in right now. Hopefully, that would demonstrate to you the importance of transparency. But I want you to think about this. How do you know that they got exactly the message that you were trying to send on both the obvious level and the slightly less obvious level? Well, try using feedback loops. Now, a lot of people like to think that feedback loops should be initiated by the listener. You know, something along the lines of, okay, if I've got this straight, what you're expecting from me is, and you need it by, did I miss anything? But what if you're the sender? Well, it's still doable. Just so I make sure that I haven't forgotten anything, would you mind kind of running through what you got out of this little discussion? Listen to them carefully. Make sure that if it turns out they didn't hear you, you can clear that up. If they got the wording of your message, but not necessarily the context of the message, you might want to give them a second chance at understanding a little bit of the why you're discussing this with them. Last but not least, as much as possible, share the autonomy. And here's what I mean by that. By sharing the autonomy, I mean, try to avoid language that is compelling and dictative. You know, the kind of thing that is, get that to me tomorrow, versus, do you need anything more? Because we really do need this by the end of the business day tomorrow. If you need something, let me know. Otherwise, it's your baby now. Okay. Now think about this. With so much else that is out of everyone's control, with so much else that seems to be handed down as fiats from the government, fiats from World Health Organization, it can feel almost like we have no control over anything. And we always look at it as if that demonstrates that we don't have control, in part because we don't know who to trust. So when you demonstrate your trust in those individuals, your project team members, who are frequently working a lot harder to get things done than we might truly understand. When you demonstrate trust in their judgment enough to make sure that they understand they're in control of the decisions around their day-to-day work and that you're there to have their back, that deepens the level of trust in that relationship and gives you the opportunity to find out if there's anything else that they need. Now, as I said in the first video, One of the things that I loved about the two articles, these specific two articles that I read, was the fact that they had actually crystallized some of the things that I'm sure many of you are too, I've been doing, but not really thinking about how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and what it means to the individuals on my project team. And that's why we've gone to the trouble of coming up with what I believe to be the particular nuggets that came out of experience as well as scholarly research. Leadership Driven Project Management Academy is all about giving you solid suggestions that you can use immediately. So pick the one that you think will be the most powerful for you and your team and start working on it. I'm KimiKSP, and if you like what we've done here, please subscribe, like, and if there's a topic that you think we really should cover sooner rather than later, as I said earlier, please send us an email. My contact information is at the end of the video. Thanks very much for joining us.